Hi everybody, it's Diana from Youth Services at Mesa County Libraries. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Today I want to show you how to make a pine cone garden, and it's going to be with our kit that you're going to be able to pick up starting October 16th at any of our library locations, and I'll show you how to get started. Okay, so because we are going to be making a pine cone garden, I wanted to talk a little bit about pine cones because they're pretty neat, and it is fall and pine cones fall from pine trees. So you'll see them kind of like when you're going to a park or walking through your neighborhood. If you have a pine tree nearby you, you will see them. So you'll typically see around here smaller pine cones. So we've got different sizes of pine cones, as you can see. Now the one that's going to be in your kit is from a ponderosa pine, so you'll see that it's a little bit larger than the typical size that we have here in the valley. Now I got these from the Dominguez Escalante Canyon, which is not too far from here, and I collected it from a huge ponderosa pine tree with my parents. And this tree was so big that I could not even wrap my arms around it. It would have to be like maybe 3 of me to wrap around this tree. It was so tall, maybe 50 feet. And when we were done collecting all the pine cones for all the kits that we're handing out, it didn't even look like we had collected anything. There were just so many pine cones on the ground, and we could see that there were pine cones from the previous fall. They were sort of grayer in color. You can see that these are more brown, but we saw that there were older pine cones still on the ground. And so we've got the small pine cones here that you'll see kind of in the valley, like maybe in your neighborhood or something. This is going to be more kind of in the mountainous kind of areas, this size of pine cones from the ponderosa pine. And then this pine cone is large, right? This came from a friend. A friend gifted this to me, and he got it in Oregon. So this obviously came from a very tall, very old pine cone tree. Now, I wanted to tell you a little bit about pine trees. So they can be called a couple of different things. So we know that they can be called pine trees. They can also be called conifers. Now the word conifer has the word cone in it, pine cone. So if you ever hear the word conifer, just think, oh yeah, the cones. That's the tree that has the pine cones, okay? And then they are also called evergreens. You may hear that term. And the reason why is because they are always green. They never change color. Those needles always stay green. So think about like maybe a Christmas tree or something. They're always green. Those needles always stay green. So they're evergreens. Okay? Awesome. So one more thing about pine cones. The pine cones that we see on the ground, they have little seeds inside them. And when they get really, really dry and they have the perfect temperatures, then those seeds fall out. So you can't just go ahead and like take a pine cone and plant it in the ground and expect a pine tree to grow. That doesn't quite work like that. But nature's got it dialed in and it knows how to do it. But anyway, that's just a little information about pine cones for you. Okay, so let me tell you what we're going to have inside your kit here. So you're going to get a ponderosa pine cone, like I mentioned before. Now you'll notice that I'm holding it from the top stem and the bottom stem, and the reason for that is because each one of these little scales on the pine cone has a tiny little spike, okay? So just be careful and hold it from the top of the stem and on the bottom of the stem, okay? So when you're working with this, you don't get spiked. Okay, so you're going to get the pine cone, and then you're going to get a little seed packet like this. And inside that seed packet will be little beans called lentils. Okay, so you'll get 7 little lentils that we're going to plant on top of our pine cone to make our pine cone garden. Okay, so the other things that you will need from your home, you will need a little dish or a little bowl to hold your pine cone in as you spray it and kind of just keep it stable, okay? So you'll need one of those. And then you'll also need some water. Now I recommend a spray bottle. Now if you do not have a spray bottle, I will show you how to water your lentil seeds on your pine cone with just your hand, and it'll be a real simple trick, okay? All right, so that's all you need in terms of supplies to get started. Okay, so we're gonna take our pine cone, and again, we're holding it by the top of the stem and the bottom of the stem, okay? And we're going to spray it with a little bit of water, okay? And the reason why, this is so cool, when pine cones get wet, they start to fold in, okay? They start to close. And so we want the pine cone to be kind of closed just a little bit so that it has a nice little resting spot for our lentil seeds, okay? So we're gonna spray our pine cone down just a little bit, and you're gonna start to see that it starts to close up. And that's the really cool thing about pine cones when they get wet. So we're gonna put that onto our little dish or cup or whatever it is. You're gonna put it inside that. So it's got a nice little resting place. Now you're gonna take your lentil seeds and you're gonna just put them in the crevices. Now what I wanna do, I'm going to kind of start sort of at the bottom so that when my lentil plant sprouts and has a little shoot from it, it's going to have a nice area to grow up and have a little bit of support from that pine cone, okay? So we're going to want to put it sort of towards the bottom of our plant. So I'm going to put it right in this little crevice. That's one of them. Now in your kit, you're going to get 7 of these lentils. So you can kind of spread them out. And I'm going to put one right down there, and I'm going to put one right here, and then so that's sort of on the bottom. Now I'm going to do a couple in the middle of the pine cone, and then I think I'll do a couple towards the top here. So you just kind of spread them out and put them in those little crevices in between those scales of the pine cone, okay? And then again, careful of those little spikes that are on the very tips of the scales because they will jab you. So be very careful you don't hurt yourself with that, okay? All right, so now I have all of my 7 lentils planted in my pine cone. So I'm gonna spray it down just a little bit because we need water for those lentils to sprout, okay? So I'm gonna spray it with my spray bottle here. Now, if you do not have a spray bottle at home, no problem, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take some water and you're gonna put it in a dish, like so, okay? And then you're gonna just put your hand in the dish and gonna get your fingers kind of nice and wet, and then you're just gonna drip it down, okay? Just like I'm doing here, right onto the lentils, right onto the pine cone, okay? Because those lentils are going to need water to grow, all right? Plants need water to grow, don't they? Now, again, the pine cone is not going to grow. This is just the lentils that are going to be growing. The pine cone itself is just a way to kind of hold those plants together and have a nice place to kind of be grounded, okay? So what I recommend is spraying your pine cone, spraying those lentils, maybe once or twice a day. When you start to see that pine cone opening up, those scales folding down, you're going to want to spray it with water so that it kind of folds up again so it has a nice place for those lentils to kind of be grounded and secure, okay? All right, and so just enjoy your experiment here, your pine cone garden. I would love to hear how it goes. It does take some time. The one that I planted, let me see, it's right over here. The one that I planted this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just starting to see some green sprouting from those lentils. So I've read that it takes about a month for those plants to really shoot up and get tall, okay? So give it some time. Make sure you put your plant by a window that has some nice sunlight because the plants will need light to grow as well, okay? Well, I hope you have fun with your pine cone garden where you grow lentils on a pine cone. You can pick up this kit at any of our library locations starting today, October 16th, through October 30th. Of course, this is while supplies last, so you're going to want to pick it up closer to today than later in the month. And then also stay tuned to pick up more of these kits. They are released every 2 weeks. And we've got all kinds of fun things lined up for you. So anyway, I hope you have fun and take care.